Depression is the motivation that is hanging up. The goddamn nation looks like they always end up in a rut. Everybody now trying to make it real compared to what? Come on, baby.
Hello, everybody. I'm Dan Pascucci, and I have my good friend Danielle Fish, and welcome to Everything But the Kitchen Sink. We are broadcasting from the beautiful Mansfield Cable Access Studios in Mansfield, Massachusetts, and it is a pleasure, as always, to be here. And yes, haven't been around for a while, and I'm going to explain a few things after the end of the show. We'll get a few things to discuss. But no, I was not in jail, not this time, and. But I hope everybody's been having a good summer. I want to start the show off as normal, and that's if you want to be part of this program in any way, shape, or form, you can email us at our email address at mansfieldkitchensink@gmail.com. Right there in front of you. Right, see that? Right there. And that is that little blurb there is courtesy of the gentleman that makes us look good all the time, the one and only Mr. Jack O'Neill, who is the ace director of the show, and he does all the nuts and bolts for us and all the heavy lifting, so I'm going to give a shout out to Jack out there. Also, we are on Facebook at Mansfield Kitchen Sink. We are on Twitter. Okay, you can Twitter us, tweet us, whatever, and that's at Kitchen Sink TV on Twitter. So, and also on Talk Mansfield, so you can get a hold of us anyway. That's if you want to, anything you want to do, any questions, questions for guests, you want to talk, anything you want us to do, read something for you, answer a question, we can do it, right? Card tricks, weather reports, you name it, we got it.
Very flexible.
Okay, of course, as always, I am joined by the lovely Danielle Fish.
Hi, everybody.
And I'm going to turn it over to Danielle to introduce our special guest for this evening.
Very excited tonight, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Our guest tonight, he is making his second attempt to perhaps win election to the highest profile, definitely one of the highest profile seats here in Massachusetts, which is the 4th U.S. Congressional office that was previously held by Barney Frank, who is retiring. He will be taking on 2 GOP challengers on September 6th. And the winner will then go on to face yet another candidate that's looking to take elected office. Can he do it?
Well, if he wins his primary. I'm sorry to interrupt. But.
That's right. If Mr. Kennedy makes it through his own primary, can our guest do it? Area Republicans think his campaign now is stronger than ever, and he will do just that, and he's here to tell us about it. So please welcome candidate for U.S. Congressional District, the 4th Congressional District, Sean Bielat. Welcome, Sean.
Thank you.
Hey,
it's great to be back.
Yeah,
Sorry to interrupt you a minute ago, but
that's okay. He's excited.
Rachel Brown, Herb Robinson, you never know.
That's right.
They could take on Kennedy.
That's right. They're fighting it out, and we love to see that matchup.
And before you folks, do the politician, okay, right? No, this is another one that keeps his promises, because the last thing you promised before you left last time was that you'd be back. And here you are. So I am
just like McCarthy.
Check one.
I'm back.
And no, we didn't even have to hold you to it. You came back voluntarily. It was great, and don't worry.
It's a pleasure.
We'll take the boot off your car after the program. So.
Appreciate that.
Okay.
We're not that tough.
How you doing? All right.
I'm doing great.
Yeah,
you're
energized.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Gets better by the day.
I gotta break off here for a little bit because things are a little different for you personally since the last time you were here. You have some new additions.
Yes. So I can't remember last time where in the cycle it was, but we had we had Theodore August 5th of 2010, so shortly before the primary and the general.
Right.
And then this past November we had Serafina. So I've got a 9-month-old and a 2-year-old, and
Yep.
definitely changes the dynamic.
I believe you had 2 less children the last
That's
time
right.
you were here, so just to
It's
get you straightened
a
out.
minor difference.
So everything's good.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I have a lot of fun with little kids. It's just great.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
They grow fast, though.
And the toughest part is trying to get home before they're in bed, and to find times to get in there.
Well,
in spite of the campaign. But
as a
besides that,
parent,
it's
and Danielle can back me up on this, they'll wait.
It's true, or you make them a part of the campaign, and I think Sean has done a great job of doing that. We're seeing them on the campaign trail, and I think they add a great dimension to it. We learn a lot about you through them, and also Sean doesn't do it alone. Let's hear it for Hope.
Absolutely,
right?
Absolutely.
Your wife
You'll never
is
see the kids
fantastic.
without Hope because
Right.
it's just too much. But yeah, especially on weekends when we had daytime events, we like to bring them, and it's more of a family thing. So it's a lot of fun.
It's funny because between his wife and the diapers, I mean, that's what hope and change is all
That's
about.
right. That's the real.
Right? That's the real hope and
There's
change.
no rim shot
Not the
here,
one
just
we
to
got.
Yeah.
Not
There
the
ought to
one
be,
that
though.
we're supposed to have gotten. You know it firsthand.
He does. He does. Well, Sean, tell us a little bit about yourself. You have these beautiful two relatively new children, a wonderful, beautiful wife that's incredibly supportive. But go ahead, tell us a little bit about yourself.
We live in Norfolk. In terms of career, I'm a Marine. I spent 4 years on active duty. I've been in the reserve for 10 years now. I went to Georgetown undergrad, did a Master in Public Policy at Harvard, and then I went to the Wharton School of Business and did an MBA. For most of the past decade, I've been working business at a large management consulting firm, consulting to large corporations, helping them grow and enter markets and improve strategy and ultimately create jobs. Then at iRobot, which is a tech firm here in Massachusetts, where I ran a $100 million product line in defense robots. And so they're used to go after roadside bombs in Iraq and Afghanistan. Great product, literally saving lives. I've done some independent consulting, and now I'm running an online startup. And so focused on political communication. And so the reason I bring these things up to you and to everybody I talk to, or to many of the people I talk to, is simply because if the number one issue we face in this country today is jobs in the economy, then we ought to have people who have some experience, who understand how you create jobs, who understand what government should do and not do in order to allow the markets to operate.
Now that's a problem because a lot of people that are in the government really don't know anything but the government. And it's a problem. I mean, it was, now retiring Congressman Frank, I mean, he had a job in the private sector, but I mean, it was when? You know, he has pictures of himself as a teenager in a gas station. That's a long time to be out of the loop.
It's almost 50 years ago. He's got a picture. And we have the same problem with Joe Kennedy. He's a young guy. He spent a couple years as a lawyer, and that's about a couple years in the Peace Corps. That's the sum total of experience. So again, when we have the number one issue is jobs in the economy, and we keep on sending people down to Washington who don't have experience in business and in the private sector, how can we expect different outcomes? You know, you want the same thing, keep on voting the same way, but if you want to see something different, get some different ideas, get some different faces and names down there.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely.
And so how do you feel about, especially in Massachusetts, when the name seems to mean a whole lot and nothing else seems to matter? I mean, how do you go about your game plan, I guess?
The name matters a lot to national media. They love it. They eat this stuff up. The last issue of People had, Joe Kennedy III along with the other Kennedys and Taylor Swift and whatnot. They love this stuff because it's celebrity. But they're not talking about policy. They're not voting. They're not the ones who are making these decisions. And when I talk to voters, people here actually want to make a decision. They actually want to hear what both candidates have to say. They want to look at the issues and then make a decision, not just vote on the name.
Right.
So while it's true everybody knows who this name is, hardly anybody knows who this guy is, who this Kennedy is. And until they have enough information to decide between the two of us, I feel like we're in really good shape right now, based on the conversations, based on the numbers, and I really like our chances.
Well, that's good.
I think it's great. Do you think we're far enough away from that by now, though? I mean, Kennedy's a name, but we're talking a lot of generations away from when they were maybe in their heyday, or when we had Jack and the presidency and all that went with that, the glam. It's kind of gone. I mean, I think you're down to a generation now that's looking to vote on principles, on issues. Certainly not someone that's just going to vote because it was their father's candidate.
I
think that's right. JFK was assassinated 12 years before I was born. To be old enough to sort of have an appreciation and memory of that, you had to be at least about 10, which means anybody under the age of about 60 either wasn't alive while JFK was in office or doesn't have much of a memory of it.
Right.
So the generation who identifies closely with that Camelot, with the things that the Kennedys were doing 50, 60 years ago, that generation of voters comprises a smaller percentage of the overall voting population. So I think you can't just keep on relying on that name and hoping.
And also, they were doing different things 60 years ago than they
Absolutely.
of late.
Absolutely.
I mean, there was more. Actually, back then the Democratic Party was a little more conservative, and they weren't as left leaning and doing things now that. I mean, some Democrats from way back when will be shaking their head at some of the things that go on now.
I think that you're absolutely right about that. I mean, what you see when you talk to, if you go to, say, a Tea Party event, what you find is about a quarter of the people there are union members. If you talk to union members at my events and at town halls and around, you find that a lot of these people who are traditional labor voters who have always been counted on by people like the Kennedys, families like the Kennedys, they're voting differently now because they found that those interests no longer represent their needs.
Right.
And so we're getting more and more support from people who you think of as the old school Democrats, but really the party's moved away from them. And you know, I welcome them to our party. I welcome them to our meetings, our town halls, and a chance to look at the issues we're talking about.
The other guys get their money and you get their vote. I think it works better for you because, and that's the other thing. I mean, people in unions, and I spent a lot of years in a union. I mean, you have no way to control.
That's right.
You know, those decisions are made, and that's it, and it's your money.
Right.
And it goes where it goes.
Right.
They tell you we decided we're going to endorse this person, and
one of my favorite things about this whole election has been that the SEIU, Service Employees International, endorsed Kennedy before he got in the race.
yeah.
So if that doesn't speak to your point, I don't know what does.
Right.
And somehow that wouldn't surprise you.
Right. Right.
That's just scary
Yeah.
when you start hearing things like that. And I think those are things that people don't hear, or it all kind of blurs together
Right.
when they're not paying attention to the series of endorsements and when they're happening. And
Yep.
as you
Right.
said, you called that exactly for what it
And
was.
there was actually a joke going around that same union endorsed his yet unborn grandson for 2021
Right,
12.
is that coming out?
So it was a cute little joke, but I mean you shake your head and you go, yeah, I could see that.
Right.
Whatever they have to do. But what brought you to getting into the race? And again, because this is our second time, and you're seasoned, and you kind of made some records the last time around. Is that you had achieved the greatest number of votes in any challenger that's challenged Barney in years. So that spoke volumes, and it just seems like the time is ripe. So why are you back in the race? Why are you in the race?
Well, I got in initially because in 2008, I was extremely disappointed to see somebody who had so little experience, so little private sector experience, almost no management experience, get elected to the highest office in the land. As a 23-year-old Marine officer, I had more Marines I was leading than he had led before he got into office. So, that was very disappointing to me. And, you always hope best for the nation. But over the next couple of years, the administration didn't perform. And, all the things that we had all hoped wouldn't happen happened. The Congress was in terrible shape. And so in 2010, I looked around and I said, well, who's stepping forward to offer, opposition to Barney? And I just didn't see anybody who I thought could win and take him on. And so I asked around, I asked if there were some strong candidates, couldn't identify them, and I got into the race. The decision was similar this time. We have this opportunity to now replace Barney Frank. We need a strong candidate to get in there and get the job done and win that race. It was tough for Hope and I to make a decision given the kids, and we spent a lot of time going back and forth on whether this was the best move for us right now. We decided we could make it work, and I'm back.
Well, that's good, because I know last time, and there's a lot to be said for your last run, and a lot of people say, and I firmly believe a lot of this, that you were the inspiration for him to maybe retire and think it was time. I mean, you made him work.
Right.
He did something that he hasn't had to do for a long, long time. I mean, for many, many, many years, and that's actually work to get reelected. He had to, he had to campaign. He had to call in a lot of favors. And he had to work. He worked real hard to keep his job.
Well, and I say this a lot to people about that idea, which is that having choices is good for voters. Every election should be competitive because it brings out new ideas and it makes people work for their jobs, like you said. During that same period, people would come up to me and say, the first time this has ever happened to me, Barney smiled when he walked down the street, or he said hello, or these little things, but they make a difference.
Absolutely.
And if time after time after time people have tough challenges, that's great. We will get better representation, we'll get better results, and we as voters we'll be happier with the outcomes.
Very good. Now you have a primary upcoming, and you have two
2
challenges.
weeks from today.
Yep. You have two challenges this time. Last year you only had one.
Correct.
Okay, and that challenger actually was a working person too, and now we get some other people. So it seems like everybody on this side is somewhat working, doing something,
Right.
and. So you get the primary coming up. We interviewed one of your challengers here already. Very charming, very nice. And then all of a sudden, it seems like that campaign had kind of lost its focus on the road ahead, and we're more concerned with you.
Yeah.
So And
Well, I'm flattered by all the attention. It wasn't the positive kind.
no, but it was just very strange because
Yeah.
you know they kind of were sailing along a little bit and they just hit a bump and I don't know what happened. There was a couple of radio interviews and a debate and it got real
Spiraled
ugly.
down.
It really got ugly. I mean, there was some news clips.